But how good have you got to be at football, right? Seriously, if this was a sign, like, how fucking good have you got to be to create that scenario? He's not played one game.
That's how he's done it. Like,
he's played from 79 to 92. If you're going to go down in flames. Hello and welcome back to that conspiracy episode today with me, Peter Crouch, Chris Stark and Statman Dave with me as usual.
Yeah, I worry this could be a controversial episode because the second you start peddling conspiracy theories, it can get you in all sorts of trouble. And other podcast hosts have really suffered from this.
Yes, but we are not confirming this is our opinion. We're just portraying news.
Yeah.
And conspiracies and two sides to every story and make of it what you will.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to get into it properly. It's all based on something that we said we wanted to do on the podcast, which was get to the bottom of Lasagna-gate, this famous incident that happened in football involving the alleged poisoning of a lasagna, which had consequences that rippled throughout football. This podcast is now a hard-hitting, investigative podcast, Crouchy.
The thing is, it evolves any given moment, this pod, doesn't it? And I think at this time, we're investigating something, perhaps quite sinister, or perhaps it was a case of mistaken identity and it didn't happen. But you make up your own minds. What we have got is we've gone to the source. And I think, I didn't mean that as a pun.
Yeah, the bechamel sauce.
We went to the source, someone who was there on the day, someone who was involved in the making of the lasagna. Did it happen or didn't it? We will uncover that all today.
Yeah.
But Crouch, you were talking to your ex-teammates who were saying that it's some of the worst issues they've ever had.
Yeah, bizarre. I obviously played, I joined Tottenham just after it, but, Jermaine Genius, Robbie Keane, players, Michael Carrick, who really suffered on the eve of the biggest game of the season. To get into the Champions League would have been massive for the club, and they all got food poisoning or poisoning of some sort.
Yeah.
So it's a conspiracy that needs addressing, and we've got the exclusive on it.
Yeah, and that is going to be coming up a little bit later in the podcast. So excited for you guys to hear our chat. It's a very serious one, we should point out.
Yeah.
Serious
topic.
It's a very serious topic, Crouchy. So we thought we could do an episode leading up to that about some of the other conspiracy theories that there are in football. You're going to hear the word alleged a lot in this episode. But in case we forget, because we've had a couple of pints and we're likely to, anything you hear in this podcast is alleged. And hopefully this warning right now can just round everything off in case there are lawyers or angry snowflakes.
Yeah, we found this all online. We've not done enough research, so it's just a few things on the internet, basically.
Yeah. How are you boys? Before we get into it, anything to report?
I'm good. No, I've been quite excited for this podcast. What have I been up to this week? Not a lot.
Yeah. I had parents' evening. I had to deal with that, which is always an intimidating experience. I guess, Crouchy, it's not too dissimilar to being called into the manager's office.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah,
power plays and everything, and shit sandwiches, as in good news, bad news, good news. Child's very clever. Child's really good. Shit at maths. But they contribute a lot in class. That kind of thing.
I like that. It's pretty similar to mine, really. Academically weak, but quite chatty.
Yeah.
And polite, which is all you can hope for, really.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, lads, I'd like to start off with maybe a conspiracy of my own. So I was in a European country having a great time in a nightclub at the early hours of the morning. On entry to the nightclub, number one, there was rules that were written. And one of them was, if you got too drunk, you go and visit the happiness stand, where they had sweets, water, and oranges.
Right.
Was I getting played here?
Interesting.
What do you mean? In the club?
In the club.
And so you go and have a timeout almost?
Yeah, go and have a timeout, you eat a satsuma, and then get back on the dance floor.
Interesting.
Wow. So like half-time oranges in a nightclub?
This is what they had in Belgium, an incredible place.
Nightclubs do funky things sometimes. I remember when I used to go out in Jesters in Southampton, sort of legendary place. Don't know if you've ever been there in your
Jesters,
time.
No,
it would have been there, proper student, but I mean like
I remember
proudly
Hot Shots
shit.
in Leisure World.
Yeah, that's not there anymore.
Oh, no.
Sadly.
Shame. bamboo,
jumping jacks and
jumping jacks.
Yeah,
good times
in
Leisure World.
in Leisure World. I mean, there was like, if I remember right, there was at the time you would have been there was an Icon and Diva.
That's right.
And also, I think a strip club as well. But you were in jumping jacks.
Yeah, I was in jumping jacks at all times.
And great. What was I saying? Jesters, yeah.
There's a student night in that one. And I always remember, like, I was a young player at about 23 at Southampton. And Klaus Lundekvam, it was about 30. He found himself in the student night in Hot Shots. It was like on a Tuesday, quite often.
Yeah.
I found that a bit mad.
Why not? You got to make the most of your time.
Good times.
Cheap drinks, good dance floor, good people.
If you're going to join Southampton, you need to be in or around Leisure World.
Yeah. It's the place to be, isn't it?
But Jesters, the reason I say it is there used to be a guy, and I always remember being in there battered and confused when a guy would walk around selling fish. And a nightclub wasn't an appropriate place to do that.
Was it a cockle mussel man? Yeah, the cockle man used to come around pubs a lot.
In Southampton?
No, just in general. I remember on a Friday night, I used to play for West Middlesex Colts. We used to drink my dad used to drink in the White Lodge Club. I'll have a blackcurrant and lemonade. And the cockle man used to come round. And to various pubs, it used to happen quite a lot. Yeah. And you'd just buy, like, cockles. I got food poisoning once off it.
Yeah.
But
God, it's
very poignant.
That food poisoning episode, really, isn't it? But I always thought it's an odd move, especially as it's a student nightclub, for the fish guy to be going around. But he must have been getting decent business. For want of a better phrase, he's kind of fishing, isn't he? He's there, but like with humans, it's almost reverse fishing, isn't it? You've got the fish trying to lure in the human.
Yeah, mad one.
I mean, it's dead, but all the same, it's kind of an interest.
Mad. But also, there's plenty of people in nightclubs that are after cockles and mussels.
Yeah. Surprising amount. And I don't know if it happens so much anymore, Dave. But going back to your sweet thing, compared to the fish, it's not that
moved on better, probably.
Yeah, it's probably got a bit further forward. And the satsumas can provide a bit of vitamin C and feel better the next day. But I always remember Jesters being very sticky.
Yeah.
Was that the fish then?
No, that was just the vomit and the semen and the and the piss.
Lovely.
I hope Jesters isn't going anymore.
Oh, it's going.
Oh, it's still going.
Yeah. They're doing great guns down there. Yeah. I'd love us all to go.
Well, let us know if you visited recently and if there's any cockles or mussels going, or is it moved on to the water and oranges?
Or if you're just in any pub around the UK where a fishman appears and just after a few drinks, what exactly is going on? And I don't know. I'm not sure if the cockle guy in Southampton is still doing his thing. But if he is, wish him all the best, obviously.
Makes sense in Southampton because you're close to the coast. But I'm not sure in Isleworth where I was getting it. It was the right.
And I assume it was a different cockle person. Just before we get into the heavy conspiracies, can I just burden you with a sort of? It's not quite a conspiracy unless you try and work out what the agenda is behind it. But it's a rule change that I've been reading about that's going to happen from July the 1st. I don't know if you boys know much more about this, but I think it's quite relevant to this podcast. So, from July the 1st, IFAB rule changes have prevented goalkeepers from taunting during penalties.
Seen this, yeah.
Have you seen this? So, just to break that down, goalkeepers cannot touch goalposts and nets. They cannot delay execution of a penalty. They cannot unfairly distract the taker, which I think is massively open to interpretation now, and they cannot exhibit behaviours that fail to show respect.
What is the actual point of being a goalkeeper now?
In what sense? Sorry?
What if you can't shithouse on a pen?
Yeah, wow.
What is the actual point of being a goalkeeper?
Solid point.
I just think it's putting too much. There's too much on a goalkeeper now. It's almost like they don't want him to save him. You're not allowed to leave the line, which I always think is a bit iffy because it's challenging to dive sideways, right? And they don't seem to control how many steps you go back in taking a free kick or how long you piss around with it or anything like that. But from a goalkeeper's point of view, if you can't shithouse, what can you do?
Imagine bringing in a rule though that only because of one man, like Martinez, all right?
Right, he's the picture on this tweet.
Right?
On this tweet.
That dance, right?
He's the picture.
Hey, Martinez, right? Obviously, shithouse in the World Cup, and rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way. But it was part and parcel of the game. Like I don't like all this when people churn up the players are churning up the penalty spot. I don't like getting people's faces. But man on man, I quite like. I quite like the psyche between the taker and the goalkeeper. Like I don't like when the other players get involved too much.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that bit of it as well, because I've noticed this with England. If Harry Kane's going to take a penalty, and I've seen other teams do this, and Dave, I don't know if you've noticed this change as well. The person who's going to take the penalty steps well away from everything, like well away from the box. And then the enforcers come in and protect their spot. So I saw Luke Shaw go in, and I can't remember who else it was, but it was one of the harder bastards in our team. And they sort of protect the spot and deal with all the arguments and everything. And if you watch, you just see Harry Kane on his own, almost just concentrating on what he's doing.
Zone.
He's not getting involved. And then when the ref has then cleared everyone away from the spot, the enforcers leave, and then Harry Kane comes in, and it's all kind of smooth process. Have you spotted this as well?
So it's something that Chelsea, I think, have brought to the Premier League, but I think it's been happening around Europe. And the idea is to really free up the penalty taker's mind and make the opposition think that somebody else is taking the penalty. So the housery is aimed at that player, and then Harry Kane waltzes in and slots the penalty home.
Yeah, which I get, but I mean, it's getting a bit much. Like this kind of housery around penalty taking. For some reason, it seems to be 22 players around the penalty spot now. Like this, it never used to be like that. There used to be an element of respect, an element of gentlemanly conduct, and there's not. That seems to have gone out the window a little bit. But I think between the goalkeeper and the player, there needs to be some sort of it's a battle of minds, isn't it? A penalty, like we should always score a penalty, but that kind of psyche of getting in there, it's been going back since the start of time, and I think you do lose something if you can't do that.
But then, so the keeper can't do anything now, but the attacker can still do the hop.
This is what I'm saying.
Is that fair?
Everything's aimed towards, and it'd be interesting as always to hear from goalkeepers and their point of view in this situation, because obviously we've got a striker. Name above door on this podcast, but it does feel it's all weighted towards. There's nothing that's improving the working conditions of a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I agree with that. I my thoughts. I'm fully in strikers union, but I don't think that seems to be very fair. There seems to be a lot of restrictions put on goalkeepers, and they're in a position where they. It's a lesser percentage that they're going to save it than the striker score it. So, to take more away from them does feel a bit harsh.
I'd also like to know what the rules are technically. I mean, it's a proper technicality if this can or can't happen, but I don't think it's ever been exploited in football. That if someone digs up the spot, are grounds people allowed to enter the pitch and perform maintenance on the spot, or
on the spot,
or the spot,
literally?
And can they be called off the bench the same way as a medic could? And the dream for me would be Titchmarsh, off the bench. He's
going to be worth a lot of money now, Chris, in the market.
Gardener, unless someone younger and new's on it. Now I don't know.
My issue now, though, with the groundsman especially, is like we're talking about conspiracies now. What if Titchmarsh is an Arsenal fan and Harry Kane's on the pen, right? And you've employed Titchmarsh, he's the best gardener you know. Then what does he do? Does he come in and throw a weed in there?
You've got ground force as your groundsman. Dimmock's there planting what.
Charlie Dimmock.
I don't know what, but Dimmock's there, and then you've got Titchmarsh, and then you've got that hard bastard.
Who's the hard one? Who's the big burly one that does the gardens?
Yeah, I can't. Was it Tommy? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
I always remember he was a bit of a legend. I hope he's well. I don't think I've heard from him for a while.
We just called him Tommy, have we?
But he wasn't like the hard bastard, wasn't he?
It's Tommy Walsh.
Tommy Walsh.
Yeah. I don't know where we're going with this.
No, I'm just saying the idea that you could bring ground force off the bench to go deal with the penalty spot would be fucking amazing to watch.
What about if you can only do that once a season? So you've got a ground force card and they go around the ground and you go, right, this is the time.
Yeah. But when I see these IFAB rules and how they change and what makes them decide to change, I do think if all of these are technicalities that can or can't be exploited, and we're talking about little things in football, goalkeeper intimidation, I guess they call it, whereas we just call it shithousery. Any technicality that can be exploited, I think, should be looked at as a tactic, whether or not you choose to use it. I'm simply saying, if people piss around with the spot, are you allowed to bring grounds people onto the pitch to deal with it?
It's something to look at, isn't it? It's something to ponder. We're trying to make our game better. They're trying to do the same. I'm not sure. I think they've gone to too many lengths there. I think they've gone a little bit too far with that.
Right, should we get into some conspiracies?
Well, yeah, let's dive into the conspiracies. Well, we're not short of a few conspiracies ourselves. And, Parch went on for a long time, didn't it? Who hit Harry Redknapp? It's like who shot Phil?
Yeah.
That was something on a previous podcast, wasn't it? Where, who shot Phil went on for ages. But, who hit Harry?
Yeah, and you're right. We had a whole podcast all about the revealing of Parched, whose identity up to then was unknown. Who Parched is.
Who Parched is, as Pepe Reina said so eloquently.
Yeah. Okay, great. So there's big conspiracies in football. Shall we get into them?
Dave, talk to us about conspiracies, mate. What have we got?
So I've been racking the internet for the few good ones. We've got one with some water, but I want to start with the World Cup final '98.
I remember as well. Very well.
Brazil-France World Cup final. France absolutely hammered Brazil, winning 3-0. But there was a little bit of controversy around R9, a shadow of himself on the pitch. Have you heard any theories around that?
Mate, it was like a soap opera. I remember watching it live and I remember saying, right, Ronaldo's out. And there was a weird kind of like vibe around it saying he's had maybe a fit in the team hotel. So they've had to take him out of and I was a massive Ronaldo fan, like still am. Just loved watching him play, and I was absolutely gutted that I wasn't going to see him in the World Cup final. It'd been unbelievable, the whole World Cup, and then to not be in the final, I was absolutely devastated. And then 40 minutes before kickoff, he was like named in the team, and I remember the news channels, the TVs, everything just went nuts. It was like Ronaldo's back in. Like, what's happened? I was really happy about it, but then it was disappointing in the final, and there's so many conspiracies as to why this happened.
Run us through them, Dave.
So back to the situation. So Ronaldo reported to have a convulsion in that situation. But weeks after the match, obviously, Brazil got hammered 3-0. A civil lawyer got involved in Brazil and demanded answers of what happened before the game. So what we've got there is Brazil had lunch in Paris, and they arrived back at the team hotel. And according to Roberto Carlos, Ronaldo broke down into tears and said he was scared of what lay ahead.
A massive game.
Massive match.
Massive tournament.
Yeah, but
Big final.
He's played for all the biggest clubs in the world. Like,
he was imagine the fame of that guy.
The
like
pressure
everyone had
on
his
him as
boots, R9s. Like he was beyond.
I suppose the pressure, like I look at it, like even with Neymar, and that it's sort of like transferred to him now, isn't it? That kind of pressure of a nation that is so football orientated.
Huge.
He would have had huge pressure in, but I can't imagine him saying he didn't want to play in a World Cup final.
That's what the reports have come. So moving on to 4 o'clock, Ronaldo had the seizure before the game when the team were eating. The team doctors thought the best thing to do was to pretend that nothing had happened. And when Ronaldo woke up, his teammates demanded that he was told. So he was told what happened. He went to hospital for tests. Then removed from the starting lineup to go to hospital and have the test. But then 40 minutes before the game, as you mentioned, Crouchy, he arrived at the stadium and the manager put him back in the starting 11.
So this is how I understand it. Like, he had a seizure of some sort. He went to hospital, but he must have declared himself okay to play. And then they thought, it's Ronaldo, we're putting him in.
Yeah, because are you allowed to submit a team that late? Or did they just submit the team anyway in the hope that... Well, we don't know that, do we? So there's a couple of conspiracies around this, right?
There is, yeah. Number one, sponsors such as Nike allegedly forced Ronaldo to play as they'd done a world record sponsorship deal and didn't want Brazil to appear without their star man.
Right.
It's something that you could see.
So these are all just fans' theories about
These
things,
are
right?
alleged
Fans'
theories that we found online
right.
that aren't the views of the podcast.
Fine. Okay, well done, Dave.
Well done,
Dave.
Conspiracy number 2. Ronaldo was drugged.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. We're fucked. Who by?
As part of a plot to make sure the Brazil star striker wouldn't play.
Okay. I wonder who that was by.
Well, as we said before, ate some food in Paris. playing France in the final.
Okay. I hope you're not insinuating anything, Dave.
No, I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just stating facts.
We're just putting facts out there.
Well, be very careful. Conspiracy number 3, Dave.
Number 3, Ronaldo had medical conditions that he hid his entire career. The doctors gave him painkillers, which only made things worse.
I don't really understand that one. Conspiracy 4.
The Guardian have speculated, not the podcast, that Brazil were bribed in exchange for millions, that they've thrown the match to get an easy draw for the next World Cup and will be able to host the 2014 World Cup.
Well, if you're going to sue anyone, you sue the Guardian.
So, hang on, explain
They've thrown
Conspiracy
themselves
4.
out there.
Explain Conspiracy 4 then. Okay, let's imagine for a second that it was not in your interest to win the tournament, right? Why would that be? I don't understand, because you come second.
So they come second, so they lose the final, and they'll be able to host the 2014 World Cup.
Oh, of course, because France can't do it twice in a row.
Yes.
That's a mad one, that. I can't see anyone throwing a World Cup for... Well, there's so much I want to say now as well. You've made me scared to say it.
No, don't worry. I think we don't worry. I think the thing is right. So going by that, literally what's said there, they would have had to have paid millions. And really, what have they done? They've removed just Ronaldo. Actually, if they were really paying millions and there was some sort of transaction, you would
get the
you would do it in a
fella
different way. Yeah, you wouldn't just
take the whole Barcelona team out.
Yeah, you wouldn't put it on one player and you like.
He was that good though.
What do you mean he wasn't?
He was that good, you know. Like
he was
take him out. I feel like you got a much better chance. I mean, I know it was a good Brazil team, but Ronaldo was special.
Okay, well, I think none of them we can sort of form an opinion on. I mean,
the way I was told it when it happened was, I remember he had a seizure of some sort, and then he got back into it, and he didn't play very well because of, I imagine, you know, and there was lots of people heaping on that it was a pressure. I did hear something about, you know, the sponsorship side of things as well, but that was obviously all a conspiracy.
Yeah, which of course was a theory that you found online, Dave.
Yeah, I found online. I quite like the drugged one.
Great.
Just because it
so we're going to go with that.
We're going to
go with that.
Hold on, it coincides with another theory that I found. Another conspiracy theory.
Are we moving on from 98?
We are moving on from 98.
I don't know. If I'm honest, just to round off that.
That's all done.
I don't know what conspiracy I think is most likely there. Feels like there's a fifth option which hasn't been thought of.
Okay.
But I definitely don't want to be the source.
It'd be nice to hear from Ronaldo. He asked me for a picture once in Ibiza.
And you didn't think to run him through all 4 conspiracy theories?
He didn't. He didn't. I was in yesterday. That was.
Oh, yeah. Shall we move on to the next conspiracy theory then, Dave?
Yeah, so this one is known
found
as...
this one interesting, didn't you, Dave?
I love this one. I'd never heard of this one before. The Holy Water Scandal. Any ideas of what might have happened?
No.
So World Cup 1990. Argentina versus Brazil. A big one. You know, a massive game. And what was reported by some sources, obviously not our sources, is that Brazil left back Branco drank some water that was given to him by Argentina physio Miguel Di Lorenzo after he was going on to help one of the Argentina players going down. Gave him a water bottle. 2 days later, Branco complained about feeling sick and dizzy after drinking the water. The water he believed to be tranquilizer laced.
And that's come from Branco, like, himself.
That's come from Branco himself. Argentina went on to win the game 1-0. Diego Maradona assist.
You see, where I thought you were going with this initially, Dave, was someone has been given some holy water, they've drunk it, and you're insinuating that is a form of doping. You know,
it's not normal water, is it?
Yeah, it has potentially some sort of miraculous thing that might happen around it. And I thought what you were saying is that would be the conspiracy theory, is that someone has drunk some holy water, has gone on to have an absolute, you know, unbelievable
10 out of 10.
Like unreal game, like freak of a game, and they were putting it down to the holy water. What you're saying is actually a player was given some water and has felt ill. It's not dissimilar to like the Lasagna-gate.
He could have felt ill, like, off anything though, couldn't he? Like he's blaming the water, but how do we know?
So the match was played in June in the afternoon, temperatures around 30 degrees.
Yeah, well.
But there is more to this story. It goes a little bit further. So Branco obviously was a little bit annoyed, spoke to a lot of people about it. He then bumped into Argentine defender Oscar Rigari at the airport in Rio de Janeiro, who said to him, so this is the Argentina defender, "Oh, Claudio Branco, that was a good trick we pulled on you back in Italy 90, wasn't it?"
That was his quote. Who's confirmed that?
That is confirmed via the internet.
Poisoning isn't really a trick, though, is it? Like if it was some sort of laced water, that's not so much a trick, is it? That's just poisoning. That's not
Yeah, it does. It feels like you could get down for that.
Yeah.
It's not like Hauser or anything, is it?
It's not really
cheating.
Housery.
It's complete cheating.
Yeah, it's completely cheating. So I don't know about that one, Dave. In terms of conspiracy, it sounds to me that he was ill, but it's weird for someone to take the credit for it.
Can we go further?
Go on then.
14 years on from 1990, Maradona was on Argentinian TV and admitted that the accusations were true. The Argentinian bench did indeed have a special water bottle that was laced with Rohypnol.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
Yeah.
Seriously. And
This is what it says on the internet.
Maradona confirmed that.
On TV.
Fucking hell,
heavy,
that's
that,
heavy
Dave.
duty. I can't believe that.
Yeah. You've not seen this in the Premier League.
I haven't seen that, no.
No.
No. Christ almighty.
Well, yeah, if true, I mean, unbelievable, but...
Have you seen this one from Barcelona? I mean, this is what, like, the Barcelona one. I mean, I don't want to say it. I'm perfectly happy.
Let Dave.
I'm perfectly happy with
Dave's done them all so far. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're all right.
Right. Well, not the
In for a
thoughts of
penny, Dave.
Statman Dave.
Go,
Or Chris Stark.
Three's the magic number on these. isn't it?
Allegedly.
If you're going to go down in flames.
Allegedly, during an El Clasico match, Lionel Messi was sending the Syrian rebels a message on how to smuggle guns into a country.
Fucking hell.
No.
You're finished, Dave. You're finished.
No, don't worry.
It's got nothing to do with me. This is allegedly from the internet.
Do you know I've seen this one, right? I've seen this one. If you Google this, there's a pattern of play that is sending messages to the Syrian rebels.
What? What do you mean?
Well, read on, Dave.
So they're talking about a goal in said El Clasico match, and according to the theory, the goal starts with Iniesta, which is said to signify the guns being unloaded in Lebanon. Then he gives the ball to Messi, who dribbles from the halfway line, which signifies the route the rebels should take and the obstacles they'll face until they reach the city of Deir el-Zawar.
Stop there, Dave. So the way Messi dribbles with the ball...
And the patterns
is the
of play
route.
is the route.
So the way Messi goes with the ball on the pitch is exactly the route that Syrian rebels need to take. That's the theory.
That's the theory.
The last bit here. Finally, Messi passes the ball to Pedro in the 6-yard box, who scores, which apparently means to send the arms by bus to the final destination of Al Magadin, where they could be unloaded.
Bloody hell.
But how good have you got to be at football, right? Seriously, if this was a sign, right? How fucking good have you got to be to create that scenario of a map?
How good at football have you got to be able to play a genuine game of football against an opposition,
Score a goal.
and also be sending messages to Syrian rebels?
How have the Syrian rebels got the Clasico as well on the box? They've been told this is the day to watch.
Also, why in the El Clasico? Why don't you just do it against, Getafe?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, Ramos might have something to say about it. You know what I mean?
What happens if Ramos has cleaned him out on the dribble? Then what happens? The message is ruined.
You don't know what that translates in the real world, do you?
Well, I don't know where I am after the water anyway now. So,
Blimey. Gosh, for a podcast, we've broken new ground today. Don't shit yourself, though, Dave. I think you're all right.
I think I'm all right, yeah. Should we move on to another one?
this South American player's quite interesting.
Oh, yeah. Carlos Enrique Rasposo?
The Kaiser.
Tell me about him, Crouchy.
We had a 20-year career in football without playing a single match in his career.
Legendary story, this in football, isn't it? I'm sure there'll be loads of people who haven't heard this one before.
Well, it reminds me of George Weir's cousin, or Ali Dyer. who pretended that he was his cousin and actually got a Premier League match in, and had no prior football experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
But managed to dupe him. But
tell us the story of the Kaiser.
The Kaiser charmed influential people at football clubs, showed them fake a CV as well as doing the same with journalists, players and staff until he got rewarded with a new contract. He even managed to convince some clubs such as Flamengo to re-sign him. If there was ever a risk of having to play a match, he would use a dodgy dentist to say he has a mysterious infection. He would also pay players to injure him in training and fans to chant his name. So he's paying fans to sing his name and players to injure him in training. Once amongst the players, he would party with them. Ex-World Cup winner Bebeto said, if you let him open his mouth, that would be it. He could just charm you. He's one of these people. In 1988, he moved to a small club which was owned by a gangster who became frustrated with his lack of game time. So the manager was ordered to sub Kaiser on in a match. Kaiser found out about this, so he jumped the fence. He jumped the fence and punched a fan in the face. After the game, the chairman met Kaiser, and Kaiser said the fans were abusing the chairman.
Clever.
As a result, the chairman gave him a new contract and doubled his pay.
How mad's that? So, unless I misunderstand this bit of the story, which I don't quite remember, he's punched a fan in the face to get out of playing the game, which is obviously a terrible thing to do. You're going to get put in front of the chairman for that. Potential contract's going to be lost, but not if you've punched the fan in the face because he was abusing the chairman. Like, that's a salesman, isn't it?
It's incredible.
Or a con artist.
Like, so have you heard? I mean, that's what he is basically, right? He's a con artist, right? He's a shyster. Have you heard this story before?
I've heard this story.
Is this a film? Then
I think it is, or it's a book. It's an amazing, amazing story, and you do have to then wonder: is there anyone we know in the Premier League that is getting away with the same? I'm trying to think of someone who's constantly injured.
Stick to mine. There's been people getting away with it for a long time.
Yeah. We shouldn't name names, but I just want you, Crouchy, to have a think about those players that you train with. Never saw them play a game for whatever reason, often injured, other things going on, never played a game. Not totally sure that they played many games in the clubs previous to joining you. There must be one or two on the brain that you must have question marks over.
More than one or two.
Because this seems like a conceivable plan that you could get away with.
Yeah, I think you have to have some form of ability, right? But I think to stay at like the level you're at, sometimes like there's so many players that I know that could have played. They think, oh, I might get injured, or they had a weak mentality, but they had some talent. But I think you do have to have some talent. You can't. I don't know how you'd blag it for this long without any talent, but you must have some. I know some players that have got away with pulling out of games where they could play without doubt.
His Wikipedia page is a thing of beauty. So youth career, Botafogo, Flamengo. Then look at the amount of clubs, and every single club, 0 appearance, 0 goal.
Yeah. Look at this. He's not played one game.
But that's how he's done it. Like
he's played from 79 to 92. He hasn't played one game.
And just to clarify, the red card for jumping into the crowd and punching someone in the face, he wasn't on the pitch.
Yeah.
He did it before coming on.
He just heard that he was coming on.
This is absolutely incredible. I thought this was a blag.
How have Flamengo bought him twice?
I can't believe it. 79, Puebla he played for. Botafogo, Flamengo, Independiente, big side. Bangu, Ajaccio, Flamengo again. Bangu, Fluminense, Vasco da Gama. He hit the big time. 6 shooters American, and he finished his career at Botafogo. Not one appearance.
That's the dream career.
That is absolutely.
All that money, everything.
I can't believe. Nicknamed the Kaiser due to his resemblance to Franz Beckenbauer. What a man. There's not a film made. There has to be one.
Well, if there's not a film made, we need to make it.
Wow.
That's what's clear. But I think there is.
Incredible. There is a film here. Look. In November 2015, Kaiser signed an exclusive agreement with UK production company Nods and Volley Entertainment. Tell his story on media. Cinematic release was completed in December 2016. Kaiser, the greatest footballer never to play football, had its world film premiere at Tribeca Film Festival on 21st of April 2018. Film features contributions from Carlos, Alberto, Zico, Bebeto, Junior, and Ricardo Roca.
Well, I know what you're watching.
I am going home to watch it. Our man can blag a almost 20-year football career has astounded me.
Great. Well, look, lots of conspiracies we got through there. Coming up very shortly, we have our world exclusive with a chef that was involved in Lasagna-gate, some serious investigative journalism from us on That Peter Crouch podcast. Before we do that, should we just do a couple of messages that you guys have sent in? And thank you so much to everyone that keeps sending us messages. As always, feel free to slide into the DMs on our socials, any of us individually, or you can email us. The email address is peter.crouch@acast.com.
Yeah, just flying into a few because we love the messages. There's a message here from Dom. He says, I was once walking home from work and I spotted a guy in a high vis who wanted to overtake. So I caught up with him and overtook. A few minutes later, he overtook me and the race was on. The back and forth overtaking each other continued for a fair distance and I ended up walking half a mile past my house so I could win the race.
What's great about that is the other person might not have even, do you know what I mean?
He knew.
He definitely knew.
Dom, that's fantastic, mate.
Yeah.
He's gone past his house. That's how committed he was to the race.
Well done, Dom.
But yeah, we're into that.
And at least you won, Dom. That's the main thing, you know.
Yeah, you've got to put your heart on the line, haven't you?
Save face on the home time run.
Good on you.
So we have been having a lot of people getting involved with their walking experiences. I've got one here from Ben, message from Ben. Every morning walking to uni, I choose the same guy walking up the hill to race. So far, it's 8-7 to him, but I'll get my Chumbawamba moment. Walking should definitely be in the Olympics, and it's far more impressive than swimming, because nearly everyone can walk, but not everyone can swim.
We do have to point out, we've had quite a lot of messages from people that are well into their professional walking.
Offended walkers.
Kind of offended at what you were saying. Basically calling you out and saying, well, let's see what you could do out on which I would actually love to see. Because it's all very well threatening Crouchy if you are a professional walker, but until you've seen what he can actually do.
I think he's built for it, really.
Come at him.
Come and walk past me.
Yeah.
I've thrown it out there.
Throw it out there and just say, yeah, you're right. Like, challenge anyone listening right now to walk past you at speed. The second, and here's the thing, if you walk past Crouchy...
I'll know.
Yeah, walk past Crouchy, just turn around, nod, and it's on. Crouchy, you will then be engaged in a race with Crouchy.
If you see me about, walk past me fast, I'll know.
Yeah.
You won't get very far.
This is going to be the new, you know, where we got everyone to kiss your ring.
Yeah, mate, that kiss the ring still goes on, you know. I still, every now and then, someone who comes over and tries to kiss the ring. COVID, thank God, put fucking paid to it. But yeah, the kiss the ring thing was, but I'm going to have some mad bastards walking really fast past. I've got the kids like or something.
You'll have to leave them. Like, a race is a race.
Stay away from the road. Back up right into that garden.
Let me just deal with this person. I'll be right back. Great. Should we do one more? I've got one about a nickname here.
Oh, great. We love them.
I know you love these, Crouchy. Message from Ben says, I used to work with someone called Peter Alecock, so we nicknamed him Peter Beer Willie.
Oh, it's standard, but it works so incredibly well. Yeah. It's like, well, we used to play that game on the train. I think we talked about this before, but you know, the stops. So like Cockfosters would always be Vagina Heineken.
Oh, that's a great game.
It's a great game. If you're ever bored on the tube, you just got to say a word like back to front, like differently, and get them to guess it.
Oh, I love that.
It's a good game.
One more quick nickname. It's from Neil here. Says, I used to play five-a-side with a lad we called Jigsaw because he'd fall to pieces in the box.
Perfect.
That's clever. That's back to form.
Yeah.
All right, Lasagna-gate. I think we're going to hand over now to the serious part of this podcast, and we'd like you all to join in with this. Be serious. This is our attempt at investigative journalism, hard-hitting stuff that you get in a lot of other podcasts, and it's about one of the most famous incidents, conspiracies in football, Lasagna-gate.
Yeah, this is, we're a football podcast mainly. There is some comedy in it at times, but this is where we go all true crime. This is something that we wanted to investigate. We've managed to get the exclusive on it, and we're going to do this fucking thing properly.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming down today. I really appreciate it. I know it's taken a lot for you to be able to speak on this subject. Let's go back to 2006, and how did that day begin for you?
It was just like a normal day. The team got in 6:30. Business as usual. We knew we had Tottenham were in the house, and the day went smoothly until certain events unfold.
So how does it, I mean, do you regularly have football teams stay in the hotel that you are a chef in?
Yes, we do.
And what was your role in the kitchen that day?
I was part of a team of 6 people who were looking after the morning service and also the hospitality, which included Tottenham Hotspur.
Talk us through a normal morning when you turn up at work. How did you prepare to create the lasagna?
Well, lasagna takes quite a few days to do properly. You know, it's a big process. There's a team of 6. Not only was it lasagna, there was salads and other things we had to prepare. And to make a good ragu, it takes 3 hours to prepare for the team. And we was happy with the flavour. It went very well.
Talk us through that process.
Well, firstly, you sweat off some onions, some garlic. Then you have your beef mince, which is browned off. And then you mix it together. And then with a little bit of love, you add some chopped tomatoes, tomato puree, and then let it cook down nice and gentle until you get the finished result of a beautiful lasagna.
So we've got to talk numbers. Temperatures.
Temperatures, about 180 degrees, which is about gas about 4, for about 35 to 40 minutes, depending on the size of lasagna.
So we'd obviously have to get verification on those numbers, but was there anything different on this occasion?
Just the people I was cooking for. Nothing. The recipe was followed. Everything was accurate. Everything was weighed. We stuck to the detail and the brief.
So where do you think things went horribly wrong? We all know what obviously happened that fateful day in 2006. When did you realise something was drastically wrong?
It was around 1 o'clock when the news broke. I was coming to the end of my shift, and I remember going to the pub. I had a shot of whiskey to take in the news, got home, and then I remember my parents coming in and saying, "What's wrong?" I was sitting there watching Gillette Soccer Saturday and said, "Look at the TV." And then it just spiralled after that.
Obviously, events unfolded in quite a dramatic way that afternoon. Player after player was taken down by a lasagna. Going back to the actual preparation of the lasagna, was there anything unusual about the vegetables?
No, they were not wonky carrots or onions. They were fresh, seasonal ingredients, which was used for the dish.
What about the team that prepared the lasagna? Any Arsenal fans in there?
I cannot remember, I'm afraid.
Can I ask you who you support?
I support West Ham.
Was there anyone different in the team that day? Did anyone enter the kitchen?
No, it was our usual team. Experienced chefs and young commies, and they were very experienced and they've done lasagnas and other foods many times before.
Do you have an opinion on what took place?
The opinion is that everything was followed to a procedure. The hotel was nice and clean, and I believe it was just something that's very unfortunate that happens to happen to certain people.
But you have to understand that these players that I know, characters that I know, have gone into your establishment fine and left feeling very, very unwell on the eve of a massive game to potentially get Tottenham into the Champions League, with the bitter rivals Arsenal chomping at their tails. Do you understand where this Lasagna-gate has come from?
I understand the sincerity of the magnitude of the game. It's also, unfortunately, these things happen. It was a very surreal and unique occasion, and unfortunately, that's something we could not have foreseen.
Chef, I'm going to be straight to the point here. Did you poison that lasagna?
Categorically, no.
Did you or any of your team tamper with the lasagna?
No.
Can't remember the third one. Are you only talking now because up until now you have been silenced?
It's taken 17 years to get to this point to explain the story of what happened. It is something that I had to get off the chest to prove innocence.
What do you remember from the fallout? When you were watching Soccer Saturday, do you remember any specific headlines?
One that stood out was a newspaper article that was a twist on the name of the hotel. It was Tottenham as sick as a Marriott. I didn't find that very funny.
I agree. It's not.
What's made you want to come here today and talk to us about this?
In my opinion and point of view, I want to put this Lasagna-gate to bed. It's something that's been with me for 17 years and it's something that's scarred me throughout my career. And to get to this stage now has taken a lot of confidence and belief in my ability as a chef to talk to you now.
And you're a chef in some top quality establishments right now, right? People are eating your food every day.
People are eating the food, including lasagna, which is a signature dish currently on the menu.
You still make lasagna?
Still make lasagna, but I don't eat it. It scarred me. I cannot taste lasagna or even Italian food. Just the thought of it does put me off.
Do you have anything to say to fans of Spurs or Arsenal or West Ham for that matter?
Being a football fan myself, I can understand the emotions that people go through with their team, especially last game of the season. And as I stated before, this was a surreal, unique occasion. It came out that it wasn't lasagna. It was an illness which unfortunately the Tottenham players received.
If West Ham were about to win the Premier League and they faced Tottenham in the last game and you again were cooking for Tottenham, would you poison them?
Categorically no.
Did you at any stage see Arsene Wenger in the kitchen?
No.
For anyone listening or watching this right now who might accuse you of being unauthentic, what can you tell us about that day that can prove you were a chef in that kitchen?
I remember after the incident happened, police turned up, EHO, the environmental health officers turned up, and then the media got involved, phoning up, pretending to be job agencies, asking to speak to chefs. People were coming in the restaurant, taking photos of us. Just thinking about it now, just hurts me.
Well, Chef, thanks for coming again today. I know we've obscured your identity and changed your voice, and I appreciate your bravery.
Thank you. It means a lot to be here today to explain my side of the story.
Well, just, whatever he's done, he's done. I'd like to thank him for his honesty. I know it was hard for him to come out and speak to us. And obviously that's why we decided to conceal his identity and his voice.
We did, and we should say as well, when you see this on social, obviously the full video will be out by the time you're listening to this on the podcast, and you may well have seen the little teasers that have been going out. We have masked his identity as well in a mask that you managed to source, Crouchy.
Yeah, the Masked Singer were kind enough to lend me one of the outfits, and of course we didn't want him to feel under any threat at any stage. We just wanted the information, and then we passed that over and give that to you, the listener.
Yeah.
Is there any other theories or conspiracies that listeners want to get in touch with for us to solve? Because I think we've got some good momentum there.
Well, the fact that he feels he can open up to us is a big step in the right direction. Whether or not we uncovered any of it, it's our job just to bring it to the fore, make people aware of it.
Yeah, it'd be good to know if there are. I think you're right, Dave. Like any examples of questions that have never truly been answered in football. Like do a bit of digging, maybe do a little bit of research, and if you would like us to get to the bottom of it, of course we can do that. Just send us an email. Peter, what's the email?
It's peter.crouch@acast.com or, of course, through the website, thatpetercrouchpodcast.com.
Heavy stuff, this podcast, guys. Let's hope we're still going for next week's podcast. I think we're fine. Assume if this has gone out, it's been run by some sort of... well, it won't have been run by lawyers. We haven't got any.
Nobody will go through this. We're going to put it out and see what happens.
But if you are an aggressive lawyer listening to this, just leave us alone.
Yeah, it's all alleged, and we did find it all from the internet. Nothing's true.
Yeah. And The Guardian.
Yeah. Cool. Chumbawamba, everyone.
Chumbawamba.